From the team you can trust, this is breaking news from News 8.
We are following breaking news out of Miami this morning. Part of a large building near Miami Beach has collapsed, leaving a pile of rubble.
We are told people were inside when that building collapsed. Emergency crews are searching the area at this hour. CBS Miami reporting at least one person has died as a result of this partial building collapse. We are following this breaking story as it develops. Look for the latest at the top of the hour on CBS this morning.
And back here, Rochester police investigating a fatal double shooting in the city, the 34th homicide so far this year.
Difficult to keep up. Officers responding to J and Orchard Streets last night around 9. They say 2 men were shot, one losing his life at the hospital. Erica Cost live at the Public Safety Building this morning with more on the city's latest homicide. Erica, good morning.
Good morning. Well, Mark and Leah, a man in his 20s has died and a man in his 30s suffering from gunshot wounds. Police say is expected to survive after a situation, a drive-by shooting they say happened in that area that you mentioned. No suspects in custody. Police are urging the community, if you saw anything or know anything, to call 911. This happened around 9 p.m. Police were called to the area of J and Orchard Street for the report of gunshots fired. They say the 2 victims were on a corner, one in a car, another standing outside the car when 2 people drove by shooting from multiple guns. They don't have a description of the car or suspects yet. Officers have been going door to door all night, working with any potential witnesses. Here's what Rochester Police Captain Frank Umbrino had to say.
Can't even come close to coming up with a time period where we've had as many shootings with multiple suspects, with multiple weapons that are this brazen to create havoc in the streets. I've absolutely never seen anything like this in my 29 years.
Umbrino says he doesn't believe the recent shootings in the area to be random, as most of them are targeted violence. And as for the names of those victims last night, we're expecting those to be released later today. In Rochester, Erica Cost, News 8.
All right, Erica, thank you for the live update. Rochester police are also investigating a separate double shooting, one that sent a 20-year-old and 15-year-old to the hospital. Around 11:30, they responded to Goodman Street and Ferndale Crescent for the report of shots fired. Shortly after, the 2 victims arrived at the hospital. They were treated for non-life-threatening gunshot wounds to the upper body. There are no suspects in custody.
And police say a man is in critical condition after a stabbing on Child Street and LaSalle Street. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, officers say a 37-year-old man was found with stab wounds to the upper body. He was taken to the hospital. No update at this time on his condition.
Well, word this morning at this hour, a teenager rescued from his home and taken to the hospital by Mercy Flight after a fire broke out last night in Shortsville. According to the Ontario County Sheriff's Office, deputies responded to Palmyra Street just before midnight. They say large flames coming from that home when they got there. The homeowner and 4 children escaped from that home. We do not have an update on that teenager's condition this morning. The cause of that fire is under investigation.
A 3-year-old boy is in the hospital after being hit by an SUV while riding his bike in Gates. Gates police say the boy sustained serious injuries but is expected to live. Investigators say this happened around 4 o'clock yesterday on Elvira Street. The bike was lodged under the vehicle after the child was hit. Police say the driver of the SUV is cooperating with investigators. No charges have been announced.
The woman who bought the guns that were used in the Christmas Eve ambush that killed 2 West Webster firefighters in 2012 is now free. Dawn Wynn finished an 8-year sentence earlier this month after being released from a halfway house in Pittsburgh. She also spent 7 years in a federal prison in West Virginia. No word yet on her parole. Wynn purchased the guns for her neighbor, William Spengler, 2 years before the deadly attack. Spengler, a convicted felon, said he was going to use the guns for hunting. He took his own life after the deadly shooting. 4 firefighters were shot in those early morning hours, 2 losing their lives, Lieutenant Mike Ciparini and Tomas Kachuvka.
Now for the latest on COVID-19, the COVID-19 state of emergency is ending today in New York State. This decision bringing a lot of joy, but also some controversy. With the state of emergency lifted, the popular alcohol to-go rule also gone. The State Restaurant Association already blasting the state for suddenly ending that to-go measure. It could eventually become a fixture if a bill finds its way to the floor during the next legislative period. One local pub owner telling us he wants it to stick around.
Maybe it will be just a temporary pause in it, and we can get some legislation in there that will bring it back and hopefully on a permanent basis, because I really don't see what it is affecting having alcohol to go with food. I really don't see the problem with it.
Almost 64% of all New York adults are fully vaccinated. The statewide positivity rate now at 0.36%.
All right, James Gilbert having a look at the forecast and comfortable temperatures to begin this Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. I missed my mark with the question, so I'm going to squeeze it back in here for you guys, and then we can reveal the answer at the end of the show. What force causes wind to slow over land and turn toward low pressure? What force causes the wind to slow down? That's really the headline there. Is it the Coriolis force? Is it gravity? Or is it friction? What do you think?
A?
Going with the Coriolis force.
Yeah, I'll go friction.
Okay, Mark going friction. All right, I'll have that answer coming up at the end of the show. As of right now, forecast looks great. High in the low 80s, mostly sunny skies. Mark, Leah?
James, thank you. Quick look at the road here with our sunrise traffic, and it's good news again. 390, 490, and 590 are running on time at this hour.
In other news this morning, President Joe Biden announcing several actions focused on gun crimes throughout the country. Part of the strategy, using money from the American Rescue Plan to bolster law enforcement in different states. Joined again this morning by Washington correspondent Basil John, live in Washington, D.C. Basil, good morning. How does the president plan to stop a surge of gun violence, the likes of which we've seen here in Rochester as well, and across the country?
Well, Mark, Leah, good morning. Yes, well, the president wants to address this issue because there has been a surge of those shootings, armed robberies, homicides that have been happening throughout the country. So the president is looking to target that by obviously tapping into some of that funding from the American Rescue Plan, around $350 million that will help with facilitating some of those issues. But he wants to use that in order to help bolster law enforcement in a lot of problem areas. So specifically, he was looking at areas like Baltimore, like Chicago, even within the inner city system within New York City, mostly targeting those really high crime areas in order to help combat that issue.
Yeah, we've had a lot of violence here recently, Basil. What are those in Congress saying about the proposed plan?
Well, Republicans have been incredibly critical, just saying that already because of the fact that the president and other Democrats in certain states have taken away some funding from law enforcement in their states. And those budget cuts obviously end up affect staffing and how many officers they have on duty in order to help respond to those crimes. Democrats and the president are saying that this funding that will come through will help bring a lot of the law enforcement back in that they do need for those problem areas, and will also help in the long run with combating gun trafficking that happens in a lot of these problem areas, and also illegal selling.
All right, Basil John, always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. President Biden will head to North Carolina to encourage vaccinations across the southern U.S.
Well, the FDA is adding a warning now to Moderna and Pfizer's COVID vaccines. A CDC advisory panel says data suggests a likely association between those vaccines and rare cases of heart inflammation in teenagers and young adults. The panel tracking more than 1,200 cases, mostly male teenagers. The CDC also noting the vaccine could prevent 5,700 COVID cases among 12 to 16-year-old boys and hundreds more hospitalizations. Time now for a look at the GRE Morning Business Report. Some used cars are now selling for more than their original sticker price. When they were brand new. The head of an auto research firm, Black Book, says the prices on those vehicles are up to 30% higher over the last year. Experts say it's due to factory shutdowns last year and a worldwide shortage of computer chips.
All right, you probably didn't think you'd be hearing about this morning. A dilemma of dirty laundry in space. NASA teaming up with Tide to figure out a way to get laundry done in orbit. Right now, astronauts wear their clothing until they can't stand the smell anymore and then trash it. NASA wants to find a way to let them reuse clothing for as long as possible. Procter & Gamble says it will send special Tide detergent and stain removal to the space station later this year. Certainly not something I've ever thought about.
I was going to say,
right?
file that under rarely thought about occurrences. Here's what's going on at the water cooler this morning. Tonight is the office night at Frontier Field. The Red Wings are celebrating with who else but GM Dan Mason doing his part with the mascots to perform the Scarn dance from the beloved episode Threat Level Midnight. Opening pitch for the office night tonight at Frontier Field at 7:05.
Some good moves.
They know how to have their fun. We love them.
Let's learn that dance and do it tomorrow morning on the show. What do you say?
You go.
No?
When
It's not looking
first pitch is
enthusiastic.
what, 7 p.m. I think?
Yeah, we'll see. Got to practice between now and then.
That's a lot of practice.
Well, thank you guys for asking, or at least trying to answer this question. It was a tough one. Mark, you got it right. It is friction.
Of course he did.
That is the correct answer, even though I have Coriolis. It is actually friction.
You just wanted me to be right.
Yeah, right. I was rooting for you. Bus stop forecast, last couple of days as kids do the finals and take care of those last couple of assignments. I think it's a beautiful day, nice and warm out there. Temperatures climbing to the 80s.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching News 8 at Sunrise.
Our next update coming up in 30 minutes. CBS This Morning is up next, the latest from Miami. Have a great day.
Follow News 8 wherever you are on RochesterFirst.com, Facebook, Twitter, and on our app for news and weather.